Hello, this is an example that shows how to deploy an existing application that I had. It's a Spike that uses, it's written in Visual Studio C Sharp, and it's using redis cache to basically cache data. It was using localhost or the Redis instance on localhost, but for this example, I thought I would go ahead and deploy it to the cloud in the easiest possible way that I could. So Redis or the ElastiCache application is actually a service up in the cloud that you can use. And what I'm going to do is, this assumes that you have an account. I'm going to go ahead and create an ElastiCache, a real simple cluster. So I've logged into my portal, and I'm going to click on ElastiCache up there. So what I'm going to do is use the Redis engine, not Memcache. Redis is kind of the recommended way to go. Memcached is older. It doesn't support as much memory. It's still very fast, but going forward, they recommend most of the time that you go with Redis. So I'm going to go ahead and create a real simple cluster. That's for a proof of concept. And these are also options. I'm just going to go ahead and use the default for the engine, Redis engine version capability. Redis is on port 6379. Don't want to get charged all that much, so I'm going to use a small instance. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm not going to do any replicas. This is just a real simple proof of concept application. I already pre-created a subnet group, Redis subnet. I'm sorry, I created a security group, so let me check that. And I'll show you what that looks like too. So we'll create that security group. I'm going to set no to all of these because, like I said, this is a proof of concept. And I'll go ahead and do a create. This is going to take a while. It could take up to, in many cases, up to 10 or 15 minutes for this to create. So while that's creating, I also wanted to mention something. In Visual Studio, so here's the project that I had from a previous example that was using Redis localhost, but only this time, this is the .NET Core 2.0 application. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this to the cloud. So what you can do, if you notice on the left-hand side, there's this AWS Explorer extension for Visual Studio, which is really nice and handy. You can get that by going to Tools, Extensions, and Updates, and do a search in the Online tab for AWS Toolkit for Visual Studio 2017. So you can install that in Visual Studio, and what you end up getting is kind of like a handy explorer to your particular cloud account that you're actually logged in as, things of that nature. So, um, you'll have to set up your default user and such. The way I currently set up my default user, although you can go ahead and just do it from right here in the account profile, is I downloaded the command line utilities and the command line interface. So you can go to the AWS Amazon.com CLI. After you install it, and this assumes that you already have an account set up, you can use AWS configure to go ahead and enter in your client key and your passphrase, things of that nature. And once you do that, you can start issuing AWS commands. For example, I don't have any EC2 instances, but if I did, they would show an array of instances, but here you have none. But there's all kinds of commands that you can run. But that's kind of besides the point. So what I'm basically doing right here is just starting up the ElastiCache instance, and we're going to wait for that to go. So the other thing is, once the ElastiCache instance finishes creating, I'm going to use a thing called Elastic Beanstalk to basically publish this application up to the cloud, and then we'll give it a run. So I'm going to pause the video and wait for the ElastiCache instance to finish creating. I'll be right back. Okay, I just realized something. I was going to show you the security group for this ElastiCache instance too. So this is still running, but what you need when you create this ElastiCache instance is you need to have a security group for it. So to get to that, you can go to EC2 section of your dashboard and then go down to security groups. And I already created this one, but you can go ahead and create one similar to this. I just gave it a name of redis SG, but the key thing here is you're going to want to make sure that you have these two custom rules set up. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and delete these two that I have up here because I don't really need those. So what you can do is just make sure you have custom rules set up for port 6379 TCP. Outbound is for all traffic, but this is for the ingress. And then we're going to go ahead and attach this security group to well, it's already connected, shall we say, to that ElastiCache instance that we're about to create. So that just says anytime anybody attempts to connect to or access the ElastiCache instance, they can only do so by coming in through port 6379. So we're locking that particular instance down where ElastiCache is running. So if we go ahead and take another look at it, just want to make sure that see how far it's coming along. And let's see, it is actually now available. So that's a good sign. So we're going to go ahead and open this up, get this primary endpoint down here, go back into Visual Studio, and right here where I'm actually connecting to the instance, I am going to paste in that new primary endpoint. So again, this application, it's the same one that I had before. So this will give me an example to show you how to use Beanstalk. I'm going to go ahead and build this right now. And the thing is when you create an ElastiCache instance, this particular one is accessible only to EC2 instances that have actually been deployed up to the cloud. So nobody from the outside world can actually use this in their application if they're not, having their particular application sitting on an instance in the cloud account that's able to access it. So this is behind the firewall. So this is actually built. So I'm going to go into this solution here, right mouse click. I'm going to go ahead and publish to AWS Elastic Beanstalk. I get this publish here because I installed that. So you have a couple of options here. I'm just going to create a brand new application environment. In case you're curious, Elastic Beanstalk is it's a service that allows you to, as developers, it's perfect for development and test environments. You can use it also in production, but it allows you to quickly and easily deploy your applications up into the cloud without having to worry about your instances or creating CloudWatch templates and things of the like. So it's perfect if you just want to take an existing application, deploy it up to the cloud, test it out. And like I said, you can also use it in production environments too. But the idea behind there is you can set up your environment, and Amazon, they did a good job of basically allowing for multiple deployment environments up into the cloud. One of them is .NET, and then you can see these are some of the other options right there. But I'm not going to use this particular dashboard to deploy the application. You can, in which case you can upload a zip file after you create your Beanstalk application. You can go that route. Rather, I'm just going to publish and do it through this. So I'm going to create a brand new application environment and use the profile that I actually have set up. So I'm just going to go and just use the defaults. Next. So I'm going to go ahead and use my development environment right there. Make sure that the URL up in the cloud is allowable. I'm going to specify my instances, my micro instances. So it's a single environment. it creates these roles for you. This is also key too. This is a .NET Core 2.0 application, and it knows that because it was compiled with .NET Core. So I'm just going to use all the defaults there, get this particular screen, and hit the deploy button. So right now it's going to take a while. So this actually has to deploy, bundle up this application, send it up to the cloud, and then on the cloud itself, it's going to have to create the application and provision it, and it's going to create a new EC2 instances behind the scenes. And so that could take a while. As you can see, once that gets going, when I refresh my Elastic Beanstalk tab here, it'll look a little bit different. But so it's right now, as you can see, it's creating this environment. It brings up this screen here, so it gives you like an events thing here, a listing of all the events, and this takes a while, but as you can see, it's starting to create the environment. If I go back up here again in my portal, I just wanted to see something here. Now you can see it looks a little bit different when I refresh it. All of a sudden we have this thing here. And if I click on it, you can see that it's currently chugging away. It's creating the EC2 instance with Windows on it, and it's going to go ahead and create your VPC, a default one. It's going to create security groups for it and all that. So this will probably take a good 10-15 minutes the first time, and then subsequent deploys will usually take about 4 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video and wait for this to finish, and then we'll be right back. Okay, it's been a while, but this thing looks like it finally finished. As I mentioned before, when you do deploy your application or create an application with Beanstalk for the first time, be patient because it can take up to 15 minutes. But when that's done, you're going to see that you get a green bar here. It's going to look like this. And what you can do is what Elastic Beanstalk does behind the scenes is it's actually going to go ahead and create an EC2 instance out there. So if I click on my EC2 instances, I'm going to see that I actually have a running instance now. And in this case, it also created an Elastic IP, as you can see down here, because I actually have an Elastic IP that got created. You will be charged for Elastic IPs and running instances, so just keep that in mind if you're kind of playing around with this, just to get familiar with it. What I like to do is I'll create these, I'll test it out, and then I'll just delete the application altogether so that I won't be charged. It's not a good idea to keep these things out if you're a developer, just to keep these things sitting out there in your portal once you run them. But here's the instance that Beanstalk created and all that. So if I go back to the Beanstalk template here, you can see there's this URL. You can also get to it by here in this plugin, so you can see that this finished. So you can get to it two ways, but I'm going to go ahead and run this. And if I just paste that, I'll go into this new tab here, paste it in, and as you can see, it came up relatively fast. Sometimes it'll take a while. Other times it'll actually come fast. As you can see, I can navigate through the application, go to the home page. To prove that this is really working, though, I'm going to go ahead and copy this, go into Postman, and as you can see, I've already, I'm going to go ahead and use these URLs that I was using to test the other application. So I'm going to create the new endpoint, paste it up here. This is just going to test adding a new content. I'll go ahead and send it. As you can see, I got a 200. That doesn't really tell us much unless I go ahead and run this get all, which is going to hit the API, and it's going to return us what we just added out there. So this is pretty much the demo. I mean, this is actually running Redis in the cloud right now using ElastiCache. So again, if you go to the home controller right there, it's connecting to my endpoint. And from here on in, this is pretty much working. So this is just a quick demo on how you can deploy application in the cloud using ElastiCache. And of course, there's other services that you can do. But when you're done, as a reminder, when you're done, you're going to want to go into your Beanstalk application, and you can delete your application. So just don't forget to do that. So you can click on this and just make sure that that you're going to go and select that delete application. Make sure that you kill it so that you're not being charged for it. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helps anybody out there. Appreciate it. Bye.